This is the Aussie Report. In this episode, we're looking at a confronting documentary connected to the book The Child Protection Racket, a work that raises serious allegations about failures, secrecy and financial incentives within parts of Australia's child protection system. The documentary presents claims that some families have experienced forced or unnecessary child removals, often through systems that critics argue lack transparency and accountability. It also focuses heavily on the use of closed family courts, where much of the public is unable to see how decisions are made or challenged. Now, it's important to say clearly that child protection workers deal with genuinely horrific situations every day. There are cases where children absolutely need to be protected from abuse, violence, addiction, or neglect. Even official documentaries about the system show how emotionally complex and difficult that work can be. But this documentary asks a disturbing question. What happens when the system designed to protect children harms families instead? That's where this gets difficult to watch. The film and book argue that some removals are being driven not only by safety concerns, but by bureaucratic incentives, funding structures, and a culture of secrecy. These are serious allegations, and viewers should approach them critically, carefully, and thoughtfully.
It is difficult to comprehend children are being unwarrantedly or unlawfully removed from their loving parents by the state child protection agencies in Australia. And this film is not about the underground trafficking of children as described in the movie Sound of Freedom.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
But the open and supposedly legalised system that trades and exploits children in Australia. The removing of children is deeply entrenched in Australian culture, and once a child has been taken, it is almost impossible for a parent to challenge a child department's decision. It's as if they have a no-return policy. Public servants, medical professionals and judicial officers are ostensibly seduced into the default solution of removing children to supposedly keep them safe. They act in unison, often distancing themselves from compassion, rational forethought and the objectives of equity in the law. Australia has participated in the cruel business of taking, that is, stealing children for 3 centuries, and it's become a protection racket, a business that has very little to do with the protection of children. Child protection had moved on from the First Nations to protecting all children. This was done for the care and protection of children, and this created the contemporary child protection systems we now know, where best interests of the child is the main principle. There were competing interests in the care of children. The Family Law Act of 1975 set out how to manage custody and child protection concerns in the federal family law courts. But through Section 69ZK of the Family Law Act, this allowed the state to override federal courts. When it comes to the operation of child welfare laws, this means that the lower children's courts have controlling interest in the trade of children. This will become clear later. We have heard of certain agencies going into Aboriginal communities and vacuuming up 20 to 30 children over a long weekend as if they were on a self-endorsed quota system. The Family Matters report released by the Secretariat of the National Aboriginal and Islander Childcare found 21,523 Indigenous children were in out-of-home care as of June 30, 2020. That is 1 in every 15.6 First Nations children living in Australia. That means 64 out of every 1,000 Indigenous children are in out-of-home care. The child departments use the law as governments did before them over hundreds of years to remove children, and they have the words protection and safety to guile you. The government's default solution for protection is to remove the child, and it is almost impossible to obtain details and reasons for why specific children were taken into care, as the child departments and children's courts operate in complete secrecy. Presently, there are about 50,000 children, that is between the ages of 0 to 18, in state out-of-home care, which includes foster care, kinship care, and residential care. And the industry is growing annually faster than population growth. Obviously, there are children at risk. They might have drugged out parents or are surviving in a home that has alarming accounts of domestic violence, sexual assault, or neglect. But when children are taken from loving homes for no good reason, this results in a catastrophic ripple effect. It becomes generational. The children of parents who have survived the system will often become future clients of the system. The problem too is that the government turns out to be a bad parent over and over again. Their own statistics reveal children taken into government care are more likely to be harmed. Their families are disrupted and the child's potential stunted. It's like removing the child from the frying pan into the fire.
Australia already has a painful history involving institutional failures surrounding children. From the Forgotten Australians, where hundreds of thousands of children experienced abuse or neglected in care throughout the 20th century, to the Stolen Generations, where Indigenous children were forcibly removed from their families under government policy. The country has seen repeated examples of systems claiming to act for the good of the child while causing lasting trauma. That history matters, because when people raise concerns today about transparency, oversight, or family court secrecy, those concerns don't exist in a vacuum. One of the most uncomfortable themes in this documentary is the emotional devastation experienced by parents and children who say they were separated unfairly. Whether viewers agree with every claim made in the film or not, the pain shown is very real.
Love you, Mum. Bye. Wait, my foot
Destroying the family for the City of London, that's what you're doing. You've got no concept that you're violating international law. You've been served of her conveyance and you're committing an international war crime. Just remember that. It's a 12-year-old girl you got. 12-year-old.
Children caught in the legal system. Parents trying to fight decisions they don't fully understand. Families saying they feel powerless once the machinery of the system starts moving. The documentary also criticises the lack of public scrutiny surrounding family court proceedings and child protection agencies, arguing that secrecy can sometimes protect institutions more than children themselves. Critics of the current system have long argued that accountability becomes difficult when the public cannot easily examine decisions being made behind closed doors. Now, none of this means every caseworker is corrupt. It doesn't mean every removal is wrong. And it certainly doesn't mean every claim in documentaries or books should automatically be accepted as fact. But it does mean these conversations should not be shut down simply because they are uncomfortable. A healthy society should be able to examine powerful systems openly, especially systems involving children and families. Because if mistakes are happening, even rarely, the consequences are enormous. A child loses trust, a parent loses hope, a family can be permanently fractured. That deserves scrutiny, that deserves transparency, and above all, it deserves honesty. I think viewers should watch this documentary carefully, think critically, research widely, and come to their own conclusions. But regardless of where people land on the arguments made here, one thing becomes very clear. When governments and institutions hold enormous power over families, public accountability matters. And history has shown us what can happen when accountability disappears behind closed doors. This is the Aussie Report.